Since the last election, we've been through 2 budget cycles, and time after time, Andrea has made gains. In the first budget, and we tend to forget about that, but Andrea was able to force fair taxation to some of our most affluent, so that some of our least affluent could have a better shot at a better life. And in the last budget, she committed to making Parliament work by proposing progressive ideas like, and we've already heard this morning, shortened wait times for long-term care beds, youth employment programs, the reduction of car insurance, and the thing that I think we should all be most proud of is the Accountability Office to make sure that gas fiascos don't happen anymore. Andrea has proven time and time again that she says what she does, and she does what she says. This integrity is clearly resonating with the public as her personal popularity continues to soar. The public trusts her, we trust her. She is proving that we can lead, and she has a vision for Ontario for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcoming the new Premier of the province, Andrea Horwath.
Bonjour mes amis, je suis heureux d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui. I'm really happy to be here with you today. In fact, I'm happy to be back in the north with friends who don't need convincing that most of Ontario is actually north of the French River. And in fact, a whole bunch of it is this side of Superior. I didn't need a map to find you folks, obviously, because New Democrats are Northerners too, and of course that's evident today, it was evident last night, and it's evident all the time, because you're a very big and strong part of our party. And New Democrats don't need to be told that Northerners deserve respect. We don't have to be told that Northerners belong at the table when it comes to making decisions about economic development in the north. We're with Northerners, and we're with Northerners for the long haul. We're not just passing through. You know, Premier Wynne might have been traipsing around the last couple of weeks, but her Liberal government really has not done anything when it comes to Northern issues. She has been nowhere. Northerners need less photo ops for the Liberals and more results on the issues that face your communities. During the budget, in fact both budgets, as Andrew was talking about, we reached out to the people in the north. And you told us to put your priorities first. You said, make our lives more affordable, improve home care for our aging loved ones, give our kids a fair shot at finding a job and staying home in our own towns. New Democrats didn't sit on our hands when we heard that. We put Northerners' needs in our legislative agenda. And we put the government on notice. Now, I'm really proud of our achievements. We've done some pretty great things, and I'm proud of our team. And I'm proud that when we took our seats in the legislature on Monday, we were able to bring 2 New Democrats to stand up with us. I'm really proud of the work that's been done across the north by my friends and your elected officials from the NDP. France Jellina, who isn't just a voice for Nickel Belt, as you know, but for all Ontarians who want to build a better healthcare system in our province. Maya Manta, the member for Algoma Manitoulin, who's also our critic for Northern Development and Mines. John Vantoff, who's a much-needed voice for farming and Northern Ontario's fantastic farming communities, which of course we all got to see when John was the chair of the plowing match a couple of years ago. Brought us all to Englehart, Ontario. It was fantastic. Sarah Campbell, the member for Kenora Rainy River, who not only serves as the Aboriginal Affairs critic, but also represents the largest riding in the entire province. In fact, you'd like to know that it was Sarah who, when the Conservatives in Ottawa decided they were going to shut down the experimental lakes area, she is the one who was loud and vocal and adamant that that was not going to happen. And it was Sarah and the members of her community that really fought to help make sure that the experimental lakes area were open. And of course, Joey Song, who's with us today, the MPP for Timmins James Bay, who has been not only a voice, but the voice of leadership for New Democrats across the North for over 2 decades. So we've been pretty busy for the first week, I would say. We've already started rolling up our sleeves to focus on results, because that's what our job is. And we started with the legislation that's going to actually bring the Financial Accountability Office into play here in Ontario. Something we're very, very proud of, again, something that Andrew mentioned in his remarks. We came up with this idea based on the calls that we got from people in the last budget demanding more transparency and more accountability from their government. Now in Ottawa, Stephen Harper established a similar office called the Parliamentary Budget Office. John would know about this. And it was so effective that he's been trying to get rid of that darn office. Now Ontarians will be able to rely on our office, our Financial Accountability Office, for an independent view on what the government is spending, what the plans are that they're bringing forward, so that we get more than just the government spin, and we get more than just the government Enron accounting processes. We get real facts about what the government's plans are. Because it's the government of Ontario that belongs to the people. The people of this province are the ones they should be accountable to. The people who make this province work. And it should not be about making sure that those in power are able to maintain their power. Northerners are sensible people. You see the value in this kind of office. You work hard every day, you do your part, and you expect that precious public dollars will be used to deliver the public services that we all need and rely on, instead of padding the pockets of well-connected Liberal insiders. So, New Democrats are delivering results, but there is certainly a lot more work that needs to be done. As I said, Premier Lynn recently swung through here on a visit, and I know she likes to have conversations. We all know that she likes to have conversations. But I know there are a lot of issues that she probably really didn't want to be discussing. She didn't want to discuss the Liberals' failure to increase the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund to $110 million as per their 2011 election campaign promise, or the Liberals' failure to invest in northern infrastructure needed to develop the Ring of Fire. Instead of building more transit infrastructure, in fact, more transportation infrastructure, what have they done? They've gotten rid of transportation infrastructure in Northern Ontario with the deep sixing of the ONTC. She didn't want to discuss cutbacks to the MNR that are disproportionately hitting Northerners, the closure of the northern parks, which should be open really for all Ontarians to be able to benefit from and enjoy. The loss of the Ontario Ranger program. And yet they basically deep-sixed a program that not only provided young people with jobs, but actually gave young people from parts of Ontario that aren't used to or accustomed to or don't have the benefit of experiencing some of the fantastic natural resources and beauty that is available to them in the North, are able to get that experience. And the Liberals canceled that program without a second thought.
Shame.
The cutbacks at the MNR offices due to the lack of funds, even as millions of dollars are spent in the South, canceling back the gas plants in the GTA. She didn't want to talk about jobs, not after the Liberals failed to close the deal with this natural resources. Instead of delivering jobs and a $3.4 billion mining and smelting operation, they created unnecessary delays and left communities without a say in their future. And that's an issue that we're going to be grappling with for quite some time. And while they found millions and millions to pay off private power companies, not to build power plants in the GTA, they've yet to keep their promise to convert the Thunder Bay coal generating station to natural gas. And that decision, or that back and forth, if you want to call it, because it hasn't even been a decision, leaves Ontarians with a $20 million bill and an idle power plant that leaves the energy future of this region in doubt.
Shame.
Now the fact is, on issue after issue after issue, the Liberals have made it clear that Northerners are not their priority, and they're willing to let Northerners fall further and further behind. New Democrats know we can do much better than that. We know we can take real steps to guarantee supply and get electricity costs under control. We know we can invest in new infrastructure in the north rather than derail the ONTC. We know we can create good jobs here in Northern Ontario, and we can start by making sure that northern resources are processed here in the north, creating those jobs. We know that if we respect the north and northerners who make their homes here, we can build real prosperity here again, prosperity that everyone can share in. And Northerners deserve that. Northerners deserve a shared prosperity. Government has responsibility to make sure that First Nations and communities of the north are partners with any developments in the Ring of Fire. It has a responsibility to ensure that First Nations and communities of the north enjoy the maximum benefit of this development. There's a long way to go to lay the necessary groundwork for the Ring of Fire. Global markets are hungry for Northern Ontario's resources, but all interested parties have to work together to make sure that we're not shipping value-added jobs out of the province along with the chromite and the ore. The NDP believes that minerals mined in Ontario should be processed in Ontario. We've been raising this time and time again for a number of years now. And in fact, most recently, Mike Mantha, our mining critic for Algoma Manitoulin, put forward a bill. And that bill calls for a change in the Mining Act that requires special permission from the Government of Ontario to be able to ship ore outside of the province for processing. Now, that gives us a chance to make real decisions about what happens to our natural resources. And it makes sense to workers who've lost their processing jobs in Timmins and elsewhere in the north. But apparently, it doesn't make much sense to Liberals and doesn't make much sense to Conservatives, because both of those parties voted down Mike Mantha's bill to get that, absolutely, to get that language changed in the Mining Act. But you know, people are resources too. And in my books, they're even more valuable than chromite. And they don't come any better than the workers here in Northern Ontario. You need a fair shot at showing the world what you can do. You're good enough to dig this stuff up, you're good enough to process the ore and chromite into stainless steel. And but you can't do it on your own. And the fact is that sky-high electricity rates make it really hard for processing operators to locate in Ontario. The average industrial electricity rate in Manitoba right now is about 3.6 cents a kilowatt hour. It's about 4.5 cents in Quebec. Compare that to the average of about 9 cents here in Ontario.
Shame
and
on the
in Northern
Liberals.
Ontario. Now, it doesn't take an accountant to tell you that that's why our neighbors in Quebec were able to scoop the 700 good jobs that were in Timmins at the Kidd Met Smelter. It's not a surprise. So unless government policies on processing and electricity pricing change, the benefit of the Ring of Fire won't be realized by the people of the north. Unless we make sure that mining tax revenues from new mines stay local, First Nations and local municipalities will watch their share of the pie pulled out from underneath their noses. Unless government can commit to protecting and improving rail and road infrastructure in the north, development in the Ring of Fire simply will not happen. New Democrats have a plan. They'll start by getting electricity rates under control. We can take real steps today to do that, to make Ontario's grid more efficient. Now, I know Northerners are tired of suffering the consequences of unaccountable electricity decisions that are made far away by people who don't understand and don't seem to care about the North's challenges. The Liberals seem to consider politics over efficiency when it comes to their power generation ideas. How else can you explain why twice, not once but twice, they promised and then twice they canceled the Thunder Bay gas plant conversion? And as I said before, to the tune of $20 million in costs. Now, at a time when people and businesses in the North, particularly in the context of this power plant in the Northwest, are counting on that power to bring some 9 mines who are either being developed or reopened into production. The idea that this is still an ongoing question mark is absolutely unacceptable. It's time to get with a plan and stick to it.
Yes.
Now, Liberals didn't think twice when they nearly blew $1 billion to save Liberal seats by moving 2 Southern Ontario power plants, the famous Oakville and Mississauga gas plant debacle. But they do seem to enjoy nickeling and diming Northerners at every single turn. You know, mining in the 21st century is more than just digging a hole in the ground. First Nations must be on the front lines of any reserving non-skilled jobs for First Nations workers just is not good enough. Government can take real steps today to partner with industry and to help young First Nations workers learn the skills that they're going to need for the mining jobs of the future. Now, you all know, and Andrew mentioned it as well in his introduction, that the NDP promised, or rather proposed in the budget, and the Liberals took that proposal up, something called the First Start program. And that's an on-the-job training program that will help young First Nations folks in communities around the North and in communities across the province, actually, will help young people overall develop the marketable skills that they need to earn a steady paycheck. And those are the kinds of things that will help your youth stay in your community and continue to make the small towns and the fantastic communities around the North thrive again. And the program is really a win-win program for young people and for employers, because it's not only giving those young people those job skills, but it's also allowing, enabling, helping employers to build that skilled workforce for the future that they need. Now, the Ring of Fire cannot succeed unless developers have access to a ready workforce from First Nations and Northern communities. These are the good paying jobs in the future for the North, and we have to make sure that we realize them. So, there's no doubt that as New Democrats, we have our work cut out for us. Now, we're going to continue to reach out to you and to get your good advice as we move forward. Because, as you know, listening is what I like to do. It's important. I know I don't have all the ideas. I know I don't have all the answers. But I do know that you know your communities and you know the challenges and the solutions. And I look forward to continuing to hear those from you and working on our plans to make the North thrive. I also want you to know that we're going to continue to hold the government to account, and we're going to keep bringing Northerners' priorities to the floor of the legislature, because it's time for some fairness in politics. It's time to put people first in Ontario. It's time to put Northerners on the top of the agenda. So let's get to work. Let's get to work and bring Ontario to the place it can be, with Northern Ontario at the top of the pile.